Hello everyone, it's Matt with Downrange Firearms. Today we are finally going to start cutting material for our War half-scale p40 Warhawk project. Super excited to get rolling on that one. We have our tube stock on hand, our flat stock on hand. We're going to start cutting all the components we need for our landing gear. Huge focus is going to be on the upper trunnion especially, so I'm hoping to get all the tube cut period for the landing gear of the material that we have available. Plus I'm hoping to get all the flat stock at least cut to dimension, and then we'll do all the fine trimming and fine cleanup as the day progresses. We have a great 14-inch steel chop saw that Mark was kind enough to lend us right here from the shop. A Harbor Freight 14-inch. We're gonna take a look at how well that works too. I'm pretty excited to see how that cuts because it's gonna make it a whole heck of a lot easier than using grinding wheels, which was the plan originally, the 4.5 cutoffs. We're not gonna mess with that at all, thankfully. I've got a bench grinder back at the house as well. We're gonna start here at the store. When I close up at noon today, we will relocate back to the house, hit the garage, get everything set up, prepped. I will be filming all of this process as it moves forward, so you're gonna get to see every step of this, from marking, mistakes, fixes, and everything in between, complete with my little commentary as we go, and a summary at the back end. So stay tuned, you'll see where we go from here. We are working today on cutting materials to start construction of our landing gear. Previous video, I mentioned having to increase the size of the upper strut assembly in order to make up for some geometry that was mentioned in Home Builds, a handbook for first-time builders by Frank O'Brien. This book's based on the construction of his War Corsair aircraft. The fundamental construction principles that he talks about in here are exactly the same as the p40 Warhawk. So this is a huge point of reference for me as I kind of go through construction. I was reading through the detailed plans a little more in depth. Like I said, I mentioned that I was going to modify some things based on his schematics. One of the things he mentioned was extending the upper strut. What I didn't realize previously, which is why I've been reading this stuff a lot more in depth lately, is that 7-inch extension isn't the length of the tube. It's actually center to center from the actual attachment point to the knuckle that's actually going to control the landing gear going in and out of the aircraft. As that's the case, this one's actually already at 7.5. We're not going to mess with it at all, so we're going to build right off of the plans as written and designed and kind of move forward from there. So that being said, we have all of our steel laid out here, or at least the tubes. The tube stuff we are going to measure. Got my fancy little Sharpie. Our very own Mark here at the store happens to have a 14-inch steel chop saw, which I was not aware about. Harbor Freight special, woo! So we're going to use that this afternoon. I'm gonna get everything marked up while I'm at the store today because I'm working 8 to noon. While I'm here, I'm gonna get all of our stock marked and ready to roll. So we'll get all of our tubes cut. We can then get everything mocked up, take a look at what that's going to look like. Next week, hopefully we can get a hold of the welding unit, get that all wired and ready to roll, and start the actual welding and construction learning process, as well as the construction on this sucker. We have plenty of extra material, thankfully, so we'll really hit the ground running getting that going. The other thing we're going to work on today is we'll get the flat stock out. We'll do that a little bit later, and then cut the supported brackets as well. So going forward from there, let's start with our big stock. That's our 2.5-inch stuff. This guy right here. I'm going to trust their flat sides more than I'm going to trust my own. So we're going to measure right off the edges and then come in separately, and then the scrap material will be the section in the middle, not basing one of the 90-degree cuts off of what I'm doing just because it seems to be a better idea. So lengthwise, added bonus, we're going to have some extra material for me to practice on. Lengthwise, we are looking at 5.5 inches top to bottom. Yep, 5.5 inch length top to bottom of the upper strut assembly. We're going to transfer that onto this guy right here. I know, you are just loving every second of watching me draw with a Sharpie and explain simple tasks. But it's my show, this is how it rolls. Alright, so those will get cut off. Like I said, we're going to have plenty of extra material in the middle then. Best part of that function is going to be the fact that if we do need to build a third one, we've already got an upper strut assembly. This one's gonna have probably the most welding done to it. So if this has the issue, this is what we're gonna practice on first. I might even weld up both of these front and center earlier on, just because if I screw them up, there's a lot of extra material and flat stock for all of the trunnion assembly portions and then the actual upper tube. So this is probably gonna be a good one to actually do my initial welding practice and welding learning on. So as long as everything comes out good, I'll be happy, but this will be the one that that might turn into the third landing gear. But thankfully we have a bunch of extra material on hand for that upper trunnion and strut assembly, so this should work out to our benefit. The main tubes are cut and marked. We will cut the smaller brackets that use the 2.5 inch stock. We'll do that at the house later today, this afternoon. I'm not gonna just pop over 2.5 inch. I'm not gonna play with the measuring of the width of the blade. We're gonna cut it, remeasure, re-go. Just the way I've always worked, whether I'm using wood, steel, or something else. Just kind of how I wanna do it. So our trunnion assembly main tube is now marked and ready to roll. Next guy, our upper strut assembly. That's this guy right here. That is our 2 1/4 tube. Let's get that over here. Same deal, we're gonna measure, work from the outsides going in, and then all the small parts we'll measure actually in the garage when we start cutting. So upper length material comes out to, let's confirm, this says 10.5. We're gonna find out for sure. Yep, 10.5, sounds good to me. Perfect at 10.5. We are square there. Now I'm sitting there looking at this, and the upper's marked with 5 5/8. I'm not sure how I missed that, because I could have swore it was darn near perfectly 5 inches. 5.5 inches, and it still looks like it's exactly 5.5 inches. So it doesn't hurt to add the extra 1/8. I can always grind that down if it's in the way. I don't think that's going to be happening, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. So we're just going to add a slightly extended mark to make that happy with the actual dimensions on here. It says plus or minus 0.0, I think that's 1, but I'd rather be closer than further. So again, we can grind off material. It's a whole heck of a lot harder to add material. So we're going to add an 1/8 to this. 5/8, perfect. All right, now we're good to go. Like I said, this is a kind of a live stream of consciousness thing going here, so just go with it. As I make mistakes, they're going to be documented as well, but you're going to see me taking the corrective action, because as I'm doing everything, I'm double checking everything, because I really don't want this getting screwed up, as you can imagine. So moving forward from that, that is our trunnion assembly. That tube is cut, or is marked. Our upper strut, that is now marked and ready to go. Now we're on to our lower strut assembly. Alright, lower strut assembly has tube listed at 16 3/8. Let's get a confirmation on that. If I can get this flat, be to my benefit. Alright, 16 3/8. This is showing me 17 1/4. 17 1/4. So this is telling me 16 3/8. The plans are supposed to be to scale. That being said, I think, like I said before, we're going to vie on the side of too much material than not enough, because this definitely is coming in at 7 1/8, it looks like. Yeah, I've got a 7 1/8, so that's what we're going to go with. Like I said, too much material, a lot easier to fix. You can always lop off a 1/2 inch off the top of it to get within the measured spec. I'd rather have too much material than not enough, and we can adjust accordingly going from there. So let's get this marked and rolling. 17 1/8. All right, those are measured, ready to roll. We can be able to cut those. Not going to have a whole lot of access on this one, so if these are cut wrong, I'll actually have to buy some additional material. That being said, I'm not super worried about that one. This one's probably got the least that I have to kind of mess with, and I plan on getting my practicing in either building the trunnion or prior to even starting with the various materials I have available, practicing on that. Not super worried about this one component, just from that standpoint. That being said, if I have to buy more material to learn, so be it. I should have plenty of extra tube material from the trunnion, the flat stock, etc. that it shouldn't be a big deal, but we're going to play this by ear and see how it all kind of progresses. So we're definitely going to want to stay tuned for all of that. Axle material. I screwed up this order. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm well aware I screwed up this order. Let's take a look at it. As it is on the plans, this calls for 6.5 inches of this material. Exactly. I ordered a 12-inch sheet, so that's not going to do me much good. I can still cut the 6.5. We're just going to be a little short in the way of the axle shaft here that's actually going to hold the landing gear in place and allow the pivot and rotation. So this is going to get marked at 6.5. And then I'm marking the scrap material that's not going to get utilized for anything. So that is all squared away and ready to roll from that standpoint. Then we have one other piece of thin tube that's required. That would be the spring retainer. I'm not even going to actually mess with that one yet as it sits. Big reason I'm just going to hold off on messing with the spring retainer is until we get the materials to kind of get that squared away and set up, I don't even want to cut that because I have a feeling I'm going to want to modify that based on lower strut, all the other components that are kind of mixed together. So that's all the tubes marked and ready to roll. Once we get back to the house later this afternoon, I will get some wonderful video of making sparks, getting those all cut to size, and then we're going to kind of roll from there. So stay tuned for the next stuff. We're going to start marking some squares and doing all that. Solid cuts. That worked really well. A couple more solid cuts. I can work with that. This guy is going to have the least amount of excess material available, so let's try not to screw this one up. Yep, I can work with that. Alright, now we're going to go through our cut pieces, mark everything where it's going to go just so I don't have a pile of random pieces. A little bit more cutting to do, but we're going to get the big stuff done now so we can kind of get rolling with at least organization. The Sharpie seems to appear halfway decent, so that's exactly where we're going to put this stuff on. And these two 2.5 inch tubes, these are going to be for our upper trunnions. Right now, I'm not giving them right and lefts. We'll start doing that when we get closer to assembly, because at this stage, right and left don't mean anything. probably going to pick up some WD-40. I don't know if we have any around right now or not. Didn't think of it until now. But I'll probably give the fresh cut ends a quick spray down just so we don't deal with any corrosion or anything like that. It's chromoly steel, but I still want to make sure we don't have any rust issues as this kind of progresses. Let's see. Uppers. These are going to be our upper strut assemblies right here. Try not to destroy the paper planes underneath. I'll probably pack those up because I don't think I'm going to be doing anything with spars over the course of the winter. All right, there's our upper strut. And lower struts. Plus, of course, the gear retract axle. Yeah, like I said, I need another one of these. We'll make it work though. It's cut, it's started, and it's labeled. All right, I'm gonna cut a few more small items. That is not an upper strut assembly. That is my excess 2.5 inch stuff. Wrong tube. Let me get the right one marked here. These are the upper strut assemblies. That's why I go over all this stuff. Like I said, I'm documenting everything, including my screw ups. So get these labeled properly. Now I'm going to measure some stuff, get some other little small parts done. Not going to film that. I think you've seen enough of me cutting with a saw. Or maybe you want to see that. I don't know. I might throw it in there when we make the video. So we'll see. Otherwise, I'm going to get set up, cut the little piece that I have left, and we'll go from there. Alright everybody, so as you can see, we finished cutting all of our tube components for the landing gear. All that's pretty well squared away. We've got our long tube, we got our upper strut, so this is our lower strut, upper strut. These are our upper tubes that we're going to be mounting everything on. And then we've got all the smaller brackets as well that are cutting in ready to roll. So as far as the tube is good, as far as the tube is concerned, we are ready to start kind of getting that welded together. We have some more material to cut before we're ready to really get real nitty gritty into the welding. Some of this needs some finishing work. I need to take some time with some files, smooth the edges up. Right now everything's just covered in WD-40 to make sure it's not going to rust on us. We don't want to deal with any kind of corrosion issues, so that's squared away and ready to roll. Next step that you're going to see that we're going to be documenting for you to take a look at is going to be all the flat parts. We kind of started some of that already. You'll see that in the next video coming up next week though. Right now, as is, we've got all the tube stuff cut and ready to go. If you have any questions about any of that stuff, definitely put it in the comments. If you have any advice for welding, all that good jazz. For the flat stuff, if you guys have any recommendations for water jet cutters, plasma cutters, any easier way to handle the cutting and shaping of the flat components, definitely if you have any advice on how to go about bending these parts. I don't own a professional brake, especially for anything as thick as 0.100 steel or 0.125 steel. So any recommendations you have on how to bend that accurately and precisely, definitely leave those in the comments, send us a note and let us know, because I can use all the help I can get. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in and joining us on our journey on this one, and we'll see you next time.